Welcome, bienvenidos to our Committee of the Whole meeting for September 19th. We will start with roll call. Director Sproul.
Here.
Director Smith.
Here.
Director Barrows.
Here.
And I am also here, and Director Decker won't be joining us tonight. And so we are in attendance and we have quorum. I will now turn this over to our superintendent to lead us through our meeting tonight. Oh, you're on mute.
Thank you, Director Sala Ortega, for giving me the floor and also letting me know I was muted. I have a very short superintendent report tonight, really just kind of a checkpoint because we are this future board meeting October 10th, this committee of the whole is preparing for, has a pretty big moment for the board to consider a strategic planning work, 15 months in the works, and potentially approving that and moving forward. And so I know this evening we also have a workshop to just kind of look at this again after the committee of the whole meeting, and there was a presentation in the September board meeting that walked the board through the vision of a graduate, the student-centered experience, student-centered staff, and student-centered community aspirational goals. Talked a little bit about the work plans with supporting goals and the progress monitoring, and those are two aspects that I'm going to get your direction on this evening in the workshop of just how do we start to kind of take this, what we anticipate to be a strategic plan that's approved and turn it into action, right? Like to make something happen as a result of all the work. And so I'm looking forward to that. And then just wanted to give you an update as well that our advisory structure that we really started, well, the equity advisory started before the strategic planning process, but the other four advisories, student, staff, family, and community leaders advisory, all really took shape last year in a different form, and those are continuing. And so we just closed the application nomination process for the staff advisory, and that structure has staff serving from last year too, and we had 53 applicants, which is awesome. And that advisory sits at about 30 something, that tries to represent the larger district in terms of certificated, classified, administrative, elementary, middle, and high, different roles and relationships, bringing this group together. So we're really excited about the momentum with that. And then tomorrow we have our first student advisory of the year at the high school level. And so our co-chairs are two students from last year, Preston and Avery, who are leading that effort along with a lot of other amazing students. And so we're excited to launch that. And then Mr. Bill Ullman and the middle school principals are starting a middle school advisory this year. And so the principals came up with a structure a little different than the high school advisory. And so we're excited to get that moving. I have some planning meetings regarding the equity advisory and the family advisories, just to work with the leadership from those groups to talk about kind of the scope and sequence of the year and how can we leverage the strategic plan into their work. And so lots of good things happening with that. And I think it definitely, I guess what I'm hoping to reinforce is that you as a board don't have to monitor the strategic plan on your own, right? Like that we have a lot of different groups that are positioned to own the plan and to see it through. And hopefully we can work in partnership with all of them to identify kind of what those next steps will be as the plan unfolds. So just wanted to give a quick update on that and answer any questions and then kind of set the stage for our workshop later today. Okay, I don't see any questions at this point. So I am going to introduce Brett Blechschmidt to walk us through some of the items that we're looking at for the October 10th board meeting. And I also have, I'll share my screen again for you. So Brett, you can kind of walk and I'll click so people can follow along. And the first section that we're going to look at is under contracts. So I'll turn it over to Brett.
All right, thank you, Dr. Snell. So yeah, we have a handful of items for your consideration that we would like to see approved at the October board meeting. The first item is relating to our special education program and its client service agreement between Vancouver School District and Shrub Oak International School. This is a specialty program that provides very specific special education services in New York State, as you can see. And again, this particular student has very, very specific needs that the IEP team believes can be best met at this particular program. And you can see the estimated cost is $573,200, but there's an acknowledgement that this is a dynamic arrangement, and certainly the students' needs are going to come first. And so there could be a potential to purchase additional services around this agreement. So any questions on our recommendation to approve the Shrub Oak International School Client Service Agreement? All right, then we'll move on to another, and you've seen very similar agreements with various providers in the area of specialty services within our special education department. This one is a recommendation to approve client service agreement with Lakeview Speech Therapy. And as their name indicates, they provide SLP services on a contract basis to meet the needs of our students that our existing staff cannot meet because of, again, the challenges in hiring those specialty provider services. The estimated cost for this agreement is $118,080. So any questions on the recommendation to engage Lakeview Speech Therapy for overflow kind of services? All right, then we'll move on to the last in our series of special education services. This one is in a client service agreement with, I believe it's pronounced Enome Goldbook, but I could have mispronounced that first part of their name. They provide some very specialized professional development and consulting services in order to develop those high quality IEPs, and then obviously monitor student progress towards the goals identified within those high quality IEPs. This is a 3-year agreement that we are recommending, and the cost would be $85,680 per year. Again, starting in the 23-24 school year. Questions on the, I believe, Enome Goldbook? All right, the next two are, again, familiar structures for you. They're smaller capital project investments of using the district's bond funds. These are projects that have been completed and inspected by our staff, and we're recommending that you formally approve them so that we can continue the closeout process with some state agencies and some other contractual elements. So I'll just highlight both of them and then pause for questions. The first one was originally bid under bid number 2023-010, and it's for McLaughlin Middle School acoustic improvements, as you may be aware, those modern building designs, sometimes there's an underestimation of the sound traveling, bouncing off of hard surfaces and disrupting classrooms. And so this is kind of a post-construction mitigation effort to put some sound panels. A different vendor installed some carpeting in the hallways that would absorb some of the sound and improve the learning environments there. This particular bid number and subsequent contract was with Northwest Remodel and Design, and the total cost turned out to be $94,817 plus Washington State sales tax. And again, I'll pause after the second one, which was also at McLaughlin Middle School. This was bid number 2023-012, and it was for track improvements. Specifically, I've learned a new term. It's the D zones that they have on the end of the field area inside the track. And it's kind of shaped like a D, semicircle. So those were kind of value engineered to not have the rubberized surface. And then after the fact, we realized, or the planning team realized, that that was not equitable with other middle schools. So this was an after the fact retrofit to bring that track up to the consistent standards of the district. The final cost, or excuse me, it was Colf Construction was the contractor on that. And the final amount was $133,743.60 plus Washington State sales tax. And again, I'll just highlight again, both of those items were paid for out of bond funds in our capital projects account. So any questions on those two completed projects? All right. Last item I have for your consideration is a renewal of agreement number 24000-025. It's interlocal agreement between VPS and ESD 112 for cooperative information management services. This is a longstanding partnership that provides the software. Historically, it's provided student record software as well as fiscal and payroll and HR systems. With our migration to Synergy, this renewal agreement will just be for those fiscal, HR, payroll related services. The estimated, it's based on enrollment, so it's an estimated cost of $750,000 to continue that partnership. Questions on the cooperative information management service agreement? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Brett. Our next section is around policy, and I'll have Taylor Richmond just do a brief overview and see if there are any questions in these policies that are coming forward as a second reading.
Thank you, Dr. Snell. So at last week's board meeting, we introduced for first read 5 policies. One of them is a new policy and 4 revisions to existing policies. We'll be recommending that they go for a second reading and adoption at next month's board meeting. I'm happy to answer questions on any of those policies if the board has them. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Taylor. And our last section is under teaching and learning. And I'll just go ahead and walk through those. The first is around instructional materials use. And as usual, that report or the recommendation is supported by a report that lists the books that are being considered or the curriculum that's being considered, and a brief overview of the curriculum, its intended use, and if there are any challenging content sections of the review. This is a pretty long list this time, so I just want to call it to your attention. I think there's 6 or 7 pages of different books that are coming forward. There were a couple that were flagged as having challenging content. I think they were more towards the bottom, and you can see in here the reason why the committee flagged those, but they are still recommending those for the use that's listed in here. So as you know, but maybe not everybody in the audience knows, our instructional materials committee meets regularly. They have texts that are submitted to them for consideration. They review those and then they make their recommendations, and that comes to you as a board of directors. And so if you have any specific questions about content or a specific title, please just let me know and I'll get that follow-up information for the entire board prior to the October 10th meeting. And then the last item is renew purchase agreement number 2023-049 for Madden Industrial Craftsman. This is something that's coming out of the general fund, but it is specific to our CTE program. And so the recommendation is that the board would renew the services agreement between these two in the amount of $100,000 plus Washington State's sales tax. And that is the last item that we have. Sometimes between our committee of the whole, as you know, in the actual meeting, other items pop up and we try to make sure that you have that knowledge before you go to the meeting on the 10th. And if there's any questions or deliberation, discussion at the board meeting, that we can be prepared to support you with that. But that, I'll turn it back to you, Director Zavala Ortega, and I'll stop my screen share.
Thank you, everyone. Do we have any comments, questions, or concerns? None. There is thank you so much for tonight. Our meeting is over at 5:45. We'll see you in a little bit.